Hello, thank you for watching. This video is my thoughts and some cold hard facts and reality about what is marriage, why it makes sense sociologically, scientifically, biologically to define marriage a certain way. To start off, what am I claiming is the defining feature of a marriage? It is the ability to create children. That's why we sometimes call getting married starting a family, because a family is the parents and the children. Those of you who are in other kinds of combinations, because we are in a fallen world, we're going through a mortal experience where there's death. Sometimes, unfortunately, divorces are needed. We have the ability to choose if we're going to do the right thing, and some people have chosen to make babies outside of marriage, and we've got various different circumstances making people live in circumstances that are not husband and wife and the children they created. It's okay. But grandma and grandpa, grandma, aunt, uncle, raising niece, nephew, grandchild is good. It's great. It's extremely commendable to take in somebody that's not your own child. Even if they're your own grandchild, it's still, some grandparents wouldn't, and I don't know if the laws force you to take them in, but I think the laws shouldn't force somebody to take in a child they did not create. But it's good if you do take it in. But that's not a marriage. And so this is all about what is marriage. So one way you know if a certain thing, if this defining feature is the defining feature of a thing, is that feature there in all the different variations of the thing. A low-powered car and a high-powered car are both have the defining features to make them a car. Get in them and they go. And now somebody's making a joke about their least favorite brand of car not going. But somewhere on the internet maybe somebody's making that joke watching this video. So, child marriages shouldn't happen. Children should not be forced into something important and lifelong like that, but it's got the defining features. Unfortunate marriages. Just because somebody is sad about their marriage or somebody else thinks they shouldn't have done it, it's still, if it has those defining features, man, woman, it's a marriage. And for polygamous marriages, it's still man, woman, woman, it's got man, woman. Woman, man, man, it's got it. Now, right now is not time for that to happen, but this is not a theology video. So, pulling myself back from doing theology, but that's got man, woman, it's marriage. Those Amazon tribes, I've seen documentaries, the Amazon tribes, the people in the, there's a place in the Himalayan mountains where there was, in that one city or the region, multiple husbands for one wife was a common thing. They've got husband, they've got man and woman, it's marriage. Man, woman, woman and the another man. If they're in a committed relationship and it's got that defining feature, it's marriage. Marriage for convenience. Because they do or don't love each other, it's still a marriage. See, love is not a defining feature of a marriage. It's good if it's there, but it's not the defining feature. People who get married for convenience. Now, I think marriages have to be, really should be lifelong to define as marriages, but a temporary marriage, if it's a man and a woman, has still got a man and a woman. Arranged marriages, if the husband and wife didn't pick each other and some family or professional marriage arranger picked the spouse, if it's man and woman, it's got the defining feature. Royal marriages, the because it's a royal family, or whether it is to keep, to make treaties, or to help two kingdoms be at peace because they don't want to fight the kingdom that's their in-laws. If it's the man and woman, it has the fundamental definite, it's got the defining feature, defining features. Marriage is done so somebody gets an inheritance, or gets the stuff that somebody has. If it's man and woman, maybe they shouldn't have done that, but it's still got the defining features. Marriage just for money. They don't love each other, they think they're ugly, or whatever. If it's man and woman, it's a marriage. Green card marriage. Marriage so you get into a country. If it's man and woman, it's a marriage. Even though there's a green card as an incentive. Or the country is the real incentive. Even if the country is more of an incentive. It's a marriage if it's man and woman. Now it's a fraudulent marriage if they don't actually try to live the married life. But it's got the defining features if they're claiming that they're going to live the married life. People that get married just because they want to have sex, they don't like the way the person sounds, they don't like their job, they don't like their hobbies, they don't like the other person's politics. If it's got man and woman, it's got the defining features. If the incentive to get married by two people is the tax benefit, so what? If it's got man and woman, it's the defining features. Somebody getting married to avoid poverty. Perhaps there's a marriage in this world where one person is poor and the other isn't, and they got married because the poor one wants to get out of poverty. If it's got man and woman, it's got the defining features. A loveless marriage. I feel sorry for those who are in that, and I hope things get fired up again for them sometime, but if it's man and woman, it's still a marriage. An abusive marriage. I hope people get out of those kinds of marriages, but it's still marriage if it's man and woman. It's got the defining features. A controlling marriage or a blind marriage. I know blind dates mean you haven't met the person before. I don't know how often it happens with marriages, but that's kind of a variation of an arranged marriage, although I don't know what percentage of people in arranged marriages meet their spouse before they get married, but it's still a marriage if it's got the defining features. A mail order bride. If you have a mail order bride, did you have a mail order marriage or mail order husband? Maybe we could call that a mail order marriage. And it's a marriage if it's got the defining features. A marriage made in heaven. Like the perfect couple that's so happy. That happiness is not why they have marriage. If it's got man and woman, that's the defining feature. A marriage made in hell. That hopefully will get better, but it's that marriage. If it's got the defining features, it's a marriage. A forced marriage. That should not be allowed to happen, shouldn't happen, but if it's happened somewhere in the world, if it was man and woman, it was a marriage. Now, when I'm talking about what's marriage, I'm talking about what society endorses and what society gives rewards for. You know, tax breaks, merging of assets, being exempt from inheritance taxes because, one entity did not die, only half of the entity died, one legal unit. Who do we owe? That's an important thing for us to consider when we're thinking about this. We owe people who've done work to earn it. Everybody is owed to be allowed to live their life, but not giving somebody a tax exemption, letting somebody merge their assets together is not just leaving them alone. In the past, when I was younger, people who wanted homosexual actions legalized were calling for just that, calling for them to be left alone. They weren't calling, when I was young, for, oh, you better bake a cake or lose everything you have. Better go to that wedding or lose everything you have, like some people are calling for now. But, yeah, so if you're going to claim something that you're owed something, or you're going to claim somebody else is owed something, the owed person must have given something to be owed. There's got to be give and take. Now, if society helps a poor person, they aren't owed. It's nice to help the poor people, but society doesn't owe the poor people like we owe people who did something for society. Like if somebody's in the military and they got wounded in a war that their country sent them to, they are owed because they've given something. They are owed help recovering. If they can never recover, they're owed to be taken care of for the rest of their life. If that society didn't completely collapse from the war, they're owed it because they gave something. So what do a husband and a wife, what does a married group give people, which helps us to define it and helps us to explain when we owe it to a group to call them married and give them tax benefits, time off from work, allowing to merge their assets together. And when do we not? A man and a woman who make the next generation for our society are give and raise that generation to be good members of society are giving something to society. If I say that because if we don't have a next generation, we don't have a continuation of our society. Now, if you don't think the next generation of society is good, we've got a different opinion about whether society needs to go on, or how good our current society is, but it's still giving something to society if you help that next generation to come along and be productive, helpful members of society. Just making the babies isn't giving something to society. If those babies grow up to be murderers, rapists, fraudsters, robbers, arsonists, and other harmful actors in society that I stop trying to list, because we could probably spend a very long time listing every potential thing that's harmful to society. So, that next generation and raising it up is what is giving something to society. So if you have no potential to make the next generation, society doesn't owe you anything. You're not arguing for somebody's human rights if you're saying we owe something as a society, if it's not you but somebody else has a relationship that is not of the categories, one from each category, that is needed to make life. You're not, we're not hurting that other person, and they don't owe us anything because they have a relationship, if they're not giving us the next generation. And giving us the next generation but not raising it up is also not giving us something good for society, because it costs society when we need to. The damage to society is a cost to society when you give the world, I could come up with a very long list of criminals that society has unfortunately suffered from. But think of name of guy who tried to beat neighborhood watchmen to death, or a guy who killed himself on the same day that he robbed, that he used counterfeit money with fentanyl, or a guy who, killed other people and ate them, or drugged somebody behind his pickup truck. They harm society. So just making somebody doesn't mean you owe society. It doesn't mean you gave society something for which society owes you. Now, when we're dealing with sociology, there's never going to be 100%. Like with chemistry or engineering, 100% of the copper wires of a certain gauge will carry a certain amount of electricity and have a certain amount of resistance. That's going to be 100%. Sociology, we're going to have to deal with 80, 90, hopefully 90-something percent. Because people are individuals and there's people that break the mold. But so you need to raise the child. Well, what gives a child the best odds of being a good member of society? It's if they're raised by the parents that made them. Now, people who are in a mixed family because there was a divorce, a marriage, made children without the marriage, and then got married, it's still trying to it's trying to duplicate man, woman raising children. So that's still close enough. It's still man, woman raising children. It's still those who could have made them or did make them or did make some of them working together to raise them. Alright, so we got this. You can see statistics. People are emotionally healthier. The cold hard objective facts of how many people are depressed. In prisons, it's like more than 70% in one survey of federal prisons were not raised by their father. That is evidence that just making is not what's giving us, something to society. You got to raise them up good. Those people who were not raised by their father, they were harmful to society. They're costing society. They were not given something. We don't owe their fathers. Now, because people break the mold when there's 90 or 95% of a certain circumstance that gives us a good result, we're going to have to go with that and treat everybody who's in that circumstance, treat 100% like the 90, 95, or 99% that give the good result when it comes to defining marriage. Who do we force to be taken on health benefits because they're married, and who do we give who gets to keep stuff instead of turning some of it in as an inheritance tax? And one evidence that that we should be raising people with the parents that made them, assuming those parents aren't bad, is the word bastard. It has a negative connotation. You don't want to be called it. You don't want to be it because it's a bad thing. And why would it matter? Why would you have a word like that if nothing bad happens? I bet you that the word bastard came about because there's a pattern we can see of people who are not raised by their fathers being more harmful to society. And that's how the word bastard came about. Having one word, one short word that lets you know person not raised by their father. Now for my rebuttal to people say, but we love each other, or those two, they love each other. Now some of you wouldn't say those three love each other. You are a hypocrite if you're going to say it's got to be the two, but not the three, not the three. You're a hypocrite. You're disgusting. You're inconsistent. So what's my refutation of, but they love each other? Like my previous list in this video of marriages, arranged marriages, loveless marriages, people that didn't love each other, they still had a marriage. So loving each other is not the defining feature of a marriage. And you loving each other, some of you don't love each other, you lust each other. But you loving each other does not give something to society that makes society owe you. And they're raising kids. Well, let them deduct on their taxes the same deduction that everybody else gets for the children they are raising, the dependent deduction. There we go. They're raising their kids. They give them their deduction. They've got it. That's still not a marriage. They don't get the other. We don't owe them a marriage deduction. We owe them as equal treatment under the law the same dependent deduction we give everybody with dependents. And so I do want equal treatment under the law, and if there's a single man, like the one hero I've written in one rough draft I've got for a novel, who adopts a bunch of girls, then we owe it to him to give him equal treatment under the law, to give him the same income tax deductions for dependents that a husband and a wife get or a man who made the children and is raising children he made, or a woman who's made the children and is raising children she made, that they get for their income tax deduction. But we don't owe the 2 men raising a child, or 3 men, or 10 women raising a child, to call it a marriage, if it does not have the defining features of a marriage. Yeah, but no, maybe somebody's saying, but he gets emotionally fulfilled by his husband, or somebody else is yelling at their computer right now, but she gets emotionally fulfilled by her wife, or I get emotionally fulfilled by my wife, or I get emotionally fulfilled by my husband. I get so emotionally fulfilled. If emotional fulfillment is how we define marriage, then the prostitute and her customer need to be defined as a marriage if they get emotionally fulfilled from it. Platonic friends need to be defined as a marriage. I get a certain degree of emotional fulfillment from my platonic friends. Is that a marriage now? Does society owe me and my friend a piece of paper and tax deductions, and that when my friend dies, there's no inheritance tax on my friend's things because I get emotional fulfillment from my friends? No, it's not the defining feature, so we don't know it. And animals. Some people have sex with their animals. I reckon it's not a theology video. No opinion about that in this video. Focus. Are we going to call that a marriage because there's sex or because they get emotional fulfillment? I say they don't owe us anything, no matter how good their dog or their whatever it is feels. It's not. They don't owe us. They're not giving something to society, no matter how emotionally fulfilling it is. But if the 2 men have to be called a marriage because of emotional fulfillment, and you're consistent, then the man and his bitch have to be called a marriage because of emotional fulfillment, if we're going to be consistent. Or, I don't know what other combinations are out there. I don't want to, no, let's not spend a long time thinking about all the possible combinations and how they would do it. What about hobbies? Some people are very emotionally fulfilled by their boat, by their motorcycle, by their softball league, by their firearm, by their archery equipment, by their knitting needles, and by their video games. If emotional fulfillment is what defines a marriage, if those 2 women are wife and wife, and we owe them as a society, we owe them that when one of them dies, we don't take an inheritance tax from the property left behind, then we also owe, if the reason we owe them is because of emotional fulfillment, then we owe the same thing to that person whose motorcycle fulfills him, the person whose knitting needles fulfill him, that person whose boat fulfills her, that person whose shotgun, rifle, other weapon, NFA item fulfills her, that person whose bow and arrow, whose archery equipment fulfill her, that person whose airplane fulfills her, that person whose bicycle fulfills him. So, thank you for watching. I think I got my point across there, explained myself well enough. And it's an objective fact that my camera only has 4 minutes more of memory on the memory card. And it's an objective fact that you just watched the whole video. Thank you for watching. You have a good day. Bye-bye.